And now, time to get in the huddle with your host, Charles Ritchie, here on the Man of Steel podcast.
Hey, you blink, I'll cut your eyelids off. Don't you blink. I got you. Let's go.
You get where you feel like you can rush the quarterback. You understand? Yeah. Rush the quarterback. Bangs in for the touchdown, and there's the coup de grace.
Do you have room in the trophy for another one there? You got 6 of them. Now you're the winningest franchise in NFL history.
We'll make room.
Moving on for this topic, let's get into some other stuff right now. NFL extra points right now. We also just heard Ian Rappaport reporting, I'm sure you guys heard last week. We might have a little bit of like a conflict of interest right now with the preseason, yellow in the regular season, but more so the preseason for right now. As everyone is aware, according to Ian Rappaport, the league, the executives and the owners have voted to cut the preseason in half because of continuing spiking in cases with COVID-19, as other sports like the NBA, Major League Baseball, NHL seems to be okay for right now, but we shall see. But they rather just do the 2 games right now. But the NFL Players Association right now, I mean, as a lot of people got the flexibility right now, if you cannot play, a lot of people are not being forced. They're thinking about scrapping out the entire preseason altogether. So this is a topic I call fair or foul when I do the Man of Steel podcast. Fair meaning you agree, or foul, obviously the opposite. So fair or foul, we will not see any preseason next August. Josh, I'll start with you on this one.
Fair. I think at this point, even though the owners want to make money, the players have such a platform that they are going to push the agendas that they need to have in order to play football. And at this point, with COVID taking place, and even though the owners are not playing, the players are playing, and there are coaches that are representing these players, and so their voices are going to be heard at a level that, quite frankly, previously may not have been heard. So because of that, I don't think the NFL really needs a preseason per se, because I mean, all preseason is you're resting your starters for the most part and giving other football players chances to potentially make the roster or get a couple wins, a couple reps in a professional setting like that, so that way they can prepare themselves for the season. But if the starters aren't playing, and that's what we're going to be seeing on a consistent basis when the season starts, I wouldn't see a purpose of trying to put the other players out there just to get them some exposure like that, especially if they're not even going to be there long, around for that season when they do their cuts. So I wouldn't worry about a preseason if I was in the NFL right now. I'll focus on doing training camp all the way up until the season actually starts. So that way you'll be more in sync and give that actual practice time needed with the fact that you're not even really going to have much of that due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
One other thing I will just say and retort to that, though, because even if you are having a season, have it successfully, I mean, even though you got a lot more things seriously at stake, I mean, the bottom line is a lot of people are, I think, worried about because the cap situation, which could happen next year, which would affect a lot of teams in the NFL. People are close to the cap limit or whatever, because the money may not be as friendly as it is the following season, with hands continuing to be forced down. But as a Bears fan, let me ask you this. If they have a season, wouldn't you be a little bit more concerned having a season wiped out, considering last year when they barely played any of their starters last year? Some people would like to point to, I think that was the reason why they took a big decline as far as like their production that season. You saw the takeaways on defense go down. More so, the number one thing was with the mediocre offense. Do not have a running game that's ranked in the high 20s right there. If you're watching a Bears team who's looking to try to bounce back, wouldn't that affect their season, not having any preseason games at all versus going through virtual training camps or some training together?
Man, it's like you're in my head right now, because that was going to be my point. I was going to say fair in terms of where my mind is, but my heart, being a Bears supporter, man, we've already seen what a lack of a preseason can do to Mitch Trubisky and the Bears offense. So I'm torn on that one. Very worried, to say the least, very worried. That's a great point you brought up, though.
I'm just saying because right now here you gotta look at it this way too. I mean, yeah, I mean we're trying to worry about the health, and I get that part. But I mean at the same time too, if you're trying to still have a successful campaign and still are on board with having the season go down, I mean you also gotta believe too. I mean one thing I would be concerned with, and I'll say foul on having no preseason, only because like it or not, you're going to have a quarterback battle, which leads me to my next topic of fair or foul. Believe it or not, Nick Foles and Mitch Trubisky, unfortunately, that's going to be the distracting headline either way as it goes, whereas at the end of the preseason or the start of the regular season right now, fair or foul topic number 2, Mitch Trubisky survives the end of the preseason as the Bears' opening regular season starter. Does he edge it out over Nick Foles?
Oh, man, that's a tough one, man. And I want to like Mitch. I really do, man. I hate to just throw anybody under the bus, man. But I'm going to have to just say, I'm going to have to go with Foles, man. I don't think Mitch is going to be the answer. I think the Bears are right not to pick up that option on him because he hasn't really proven that he can be trusted. So I got to go with Foles being the opening day, week 1 starter.
Josh?
If the Bears believed in Mitchell Trubisky so much, they wouldn't have brought in Nick Foles. So that should tell you right there that Foles is most likely going to be the starter coming week 1. And I think the Bears know that they whiffed on the draft pick. I mean, you in the draft class where you could have had Patrick Mahomes, who just signed that ridiculously huge contract with the Super Bowl and the MVP, and you could have had Deshaun Watson, who has performed as you could tell has a much more experienced game more experienced game, polished game than Mitchell Trubisky, and we just went with someone that we know that we can relate with. Even when we drafted Mitch, I always viewed Mitch as a potential upgraded Jay Cutler. I never viewed him as someone who was the ideal prominent franchise quarterback for us. But yet, since we drafted him, as a Bears fan, we just got to have hope that Matt Nagy can do wonders with him. And he did the first year, but that second year, but Mitch regressed at the next season. And I think because of the play of Lamar Jackson, the play of Deshaun Watson, the play of Patrick Mahomes, they're seeing what they missed out on. And because of that, I think they have some regret of drafting Mitch to a point where now they have to bring in someone that they are somewhat willing to pay to oversee the mistakes that Mitch can bring. And they believed out to Nick Foles. So that's why they brought him in, especially since Matt Nagy probably approved bringing in Nick Foles because of the history that they have together. So I think it was back in Kansas City when they worked together. So because of that, Foles is the number 1 starter. I don't think there's really much of a quarterback competition. I think they just covered that to show that, we drafted Mitch. We got to take care of our guy. We're going to give him another chance. They're playing the PR game with this thing. I think Foles is the starter from week 1.
The only problem I have with your argument, Josh, and all due respect, here's the thing where I have a problem when I hear what Bears fans or just people in general across the board. Number one, you got to understand, when they drafted Mitch Trubisky right there, of course, that's Ryan Pace's foul call along with the ownership right there, but more so Ryan Pace because, the McCaskies are pretty much hands off. They're just like the Jerry Reinsdorf just signed their stamp of approval. My thing is, I blame a lot more of the scouts in that organization at that time when you make the draft, because at the same time, when you look at the team I'm wearing right now, the Steelers, no disrespect. I mean, they got a little bit of a murky future. Depending on what happens this season right now, they might have to say goodbye to a lot of players. But at the end of the day, continuity in the front office staff, whereas your scouting, your assistant coaches right now who goes out there and recruits and pays attention to a lot of these people at their college workouts or sometimes high school, I have to look at that. And 2, even when the Bears do get a good quarterback, when you look at guys like Jay Cutler, arguably he had the best numbers statistically. Yeah, he didn't have the biggest win-loss percentage. I mean, big clutch, of a quarterback. But at the end of the day, too, this is where I get frustrated. You had him, you have Rex Grossman, like it or not. You may laugh at that, but he still rolled a good defense, still did enough better than Kyle Orton to take you to a Super Bowl right there. Even had Jim Miller, he had Eric Kramer. I mean, Jim McMahon is probably like number 2 behind Cutler or number 1 because of the Super Bowl. My thing is, here's what the biggest problem continues to shoot the Bears in the foot. Their offensive line continues to screw things over. You have 3 straight years combined with John Fox in his foul year and Matt Nagy's first 2 years, where he gave up 78 sacks, close to 80 sacks in 3 years. They always have a hard time protecting their quarterback. And number two, when they do get a good quarterback and they do get the weapons around them, what usually ends up happening a lot of times, they fail to execute their offensive game planning, their play calling. I just feel it's not like they don't got the talent. I just see a lot of things. You just be seeing some goofy things. It's like where they're running an offense and they're poorly executing.
I mean, let's put it this way. I will say this: the Bears have definitely, for the most part, drafted decent talent, but it's all about developing that talent as well. And that does, and like you said, it doesn't just come from the scouts. It also comes from your coaching staff. It comes from putting the right talent around that. Another prime example of a guy that was talented that the Bears drafted but whiffed and eventually fell out of the league a little bit was Kevin White. Kevin White was a top 10 pick that we thought was a big body, and comparing him to Alshon Jeffrey, we thought he was going to have one of the top wide receiver duos in the league. Kevin White kept on getting hurt, and he regressed to a point where that pick did not live up to the expectations. When we drafted Mitch Trubisky, yes, you're absolutely right. Jay Cutler had the stats. Jay Cutler had all types of numbers, but he also had a different offensive coordinator at the time and an offensive coach who unfortunately did not live up to the defensive expectations that was given to them at that time. He had a completely different coaching staff, and Jay Cutler had a different wide receiving core. Mitchell Trubisky at the time, like you mentioned, going to the scouts' perspective, he only played a few college football games. I think when he didn't even play a full season yet at North Carolina, and we took him over a NCAA champion in Deshaun Watson. And even though Patrick Mahomes didn't have a great record in college, he still had a still overall premier talent or a raw talent that was technically better than Mitchell Trubisky, where if you put the right coaching staff with Patrick Mahomes, he could, putting him with Matt Nagy, you would have put Patrick Mahomes with an Andy Reid 2.0. And that would have took things to a whole nother level compared to Mitchell Trubisky, where you have to work, where you basically go into every game and you don't know what you're going to get. That was a knock with Jay Cutler. You did not know what you were going to get from game to game. And that's been like that with every quarterback, even with Rex Grossman, even with Kyle Orton. Any quarterback that we've had, you never know what you're going to get from a game-to-game basis. And the thing that made Jay Cutler so different from Mitchell Trubisky, not so different, but similar, is the fact that the Bears view both of those quarterbacks as your franchise quarterbacks. When you do that, you are telling the world that this is the guy that you want to lead your future. Unfortunately, Jay Cutler did not live up to those expectations, and neither did Mitch. And if the Bears did believe in Mitch, that to the point where like they did when they first drafted him, they would not have brought in a Super Bowl champion in Nick Foles. Yes, Nick Foles had a rough starting career. He hasn't been the greatest starter. He's bounced around from team to team, but the miracle when he was with the Philadelphia Eagles, he played top notch, and part of that is because he had a quarterback's head coach. He had a coach that was willing to put the best quarterback in the best positions to win, and the Bears have that quarterback whisperer for the most part, in Matt Nagy, and who they believe, and he has been proving that with when he won Coach of the Year and brought the Bears to the playoffs. So we have, like you said, we have the pieces from a coaching perspective, but if you don't have the talent to surround your quarterback and a quarterback that can excel that talent and make their teammates better, you're going to whiff every time offensively. And that's what happened with Mitch Trubisky, and that's why they brought in Nick Foles. Otherwise, I wouldn't have seen them bringing in Nick Foles, especially with the fact that they're paying him over $25 million a year with the contract that he signed.
I get that, but unity and chemistry and continuity is still another world, too. Even if you got the pieces around, you still got to make sure you execute it properly and are on board. I mean, moment-to-moment, game-time basis right there. And to answer your question, by the way, Mr. Trubisky played in 21 games versus Patrick Mahomes playing 32 games in his collegiate career, by the way, in those seasons. Just to give you a little update real quick. Next topic. Bears are right there. They will return back to the playoffs in 2020 this season. Fair or foul? Drew, I'll go with you on this one.
I'm going to go with fair because I think Nick Foles is going to take over that quarterback position and run the offense the way that Matt Nagy envisioned it to be ran. I think the defense is still very much respectable. I think their weapons play better because it's a better captain of the ship, so to speak, behind center, under center. So I think they'll make the playoffs this year.
Josh?
Wild card. I'll give them the wild card. I think Aaron Rodgers and the Packers are still high, and I think they're going to eventually win the AFC. I mean, not the AFC, NFC. I'm sorry, the NFC North. I think the Packers are going to win that division, and with the Vikings making the small changes that they did, and they got hopefully not Stephon Diggs, but Dalvin Cook comes back, ready to roll. If he doesn't, that could hurt the Vikings' chances for sure. But I can see the Bears. I can definitely see the Bears sneaking in, especially with the defensive changes that we've made and bringing in Nick Foles. I think if Nick Foles just stays consistent throughout the season, Bears have a good chance to definitely sneak in there.
I'm gonna probably have to go with foul, and I'm just being a little skeptic here right there. I mean, they probably could get in. I mean, on the wild card, but even to get in as a wild card too, I'd only be concerned like they don't have much success ever in the franchise history winning the Super Bowl as a wild card team. I mean, overall, and not that though. Too, you look at their schedule this year. I mean, for who they're going to be facing as far as like their opponents. You're going to be facing both the NFC South as well as the AFC South in both divisions, while you be having the Giants and one other team too. I think the Rams as like your other teams like outside those areas right there. And I just gotta believe right now. I mean, you look at those final 4 games of the season right there. I mean, which could be really interesting right there, which I really feel could be a rough stretch of December. I mean, you got your last 4 games. I mean, depending on how they do in that season, you got to finish out hosting the Texans and then on the road, back-to-back games against the Vikings and the Jaguars and finishing at home against the Packers, depending on what is wrapped up right there. So I think for the Bears and their case, if they're going to get in there, I think they need to have a strong start to the season. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you got one team extra in each league, but it's going to be incumbent. They cannot start off slow out of the gate. You have to probably at least start the season maybe a 4-1, probably like around like the first quarter of the season, if you ask me, somewhere around that line to see like gauge where they're going to be at, I would think.
No, it's possible. I mean, that is what's going to make this season so unique is the fact that we're all starting on the same playing field. Everyone's starting off the same training schedules. Everybody's starting off the same football schedules for the most part. Not everyone's been able to train. Not everyone's been able to work out. So it's a level playing field regardless of how the season starts. So there's a chance. It's a slight chance, though. It's a small chance, but there is a chance. And if you're a Bears fan, all you can do is hope that they do take that extra leap with the fact, that you brought in hopefully a more elevated quarterback in Nick Foles, as well as keeping your defense pretty strengthened to the core. I mean, you bringing in Robert Quinn to pair up with Khalil Mack in that backfield. It's kind of dangerous, and hopefully you got a Akeem Hicks who's coming back kind of healthy. So you just hope that the Bears can take that extra leap. And even if Mitch is the starting quarterback, you hope that he eventually can take that step back to where he was when they were going back to the playoffs and playing that at that some point of a consistency. That's what the Bears need at quarterback right now is consistency. You bring that, you increase your chances of making the playoffs, and you never know what can happen, especially this season with everything taking place.